episode of Tea Time. I'm one of your hosts, Elizabeth Urban.
And I'm your other host, Erin Gessert.
And so we have an event that's happened recently on campus that we wanted to talk about today. So on last Wednesday, right? Some hateful slurs, homophobic slurs, were spray painted on a couple of sororities and fraternities on campus.
Yeah, it was 2 frat houses and 1 sorority house.
And it had been spreading around social media that it had been done by the pledges at Kappa Sigma fraternity on campus, which has since been confirmed by the interfraternity.
It's the Interfraternity Council at ISU, so I believe that they just cover the frats here. But basically, like, they're higher up, like, who's in charge of all the frats, I guess?
Yeah, it's
like
like,
you could call it.
yeah, like a general counselor, like kind of like,
Yeah.
I imagine this has like a representative from each frat or something along those lines.
I would assume so. I can't say for sure, but...
But anyways, they've since released an official apology from the Interfraternity Council, just directed towards members of the Lgbtq community and anyone else like personally affected by it. Let me read some specifically. So, as the Interfraternity Executive Board, we apologize for the actions committed by this member of our chapter. The acts committed by this chapter do not align with our values, and we are profoundly apologetic. We do not condone behaviors of this chapter. The Interfraternity Council will not only take judicial actions against Kappa Sigma, but we will also work alongside the university and the authorities to address the root causes of these acts. We will do a comprehensive education program for Kappa Sigma. We will recommend a formal outline of sanctions again to the student conduct and community responsibilities as we wait for them to complete their investigation. Acts of hateful speech can cause undue harm to individuals. Okay. And then it lists the number for the student counseling services for anyone affected. So it's just like, I don't know. To me, it felt just kind of like a general statement.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just, I don't know, it just seems so formal, which we can get into a little bit more later, that Pride, the obviously LGBTQ student organization on campus, also released a statement in response to their statement and just the actions that happened in general on campus. But they kind of said the same thing, that like, you know.
Yeah, so the Pride Exec Board released a statement saying, "We at Pride unilaterally condemn the recent use of slurs as vandalism on several Greek houses by other fraternities as part of a hazing ritual. All too often in the history of marginalized groups, slurs have been utilized as a tool to demean, diminish, and dehumanize. Words often spur action, and allowing this kind of language directed towards those under the LGBTQIA+ umbrella to continue can incite violent measures against our community. We call on the Interfraternity Council to take sufficient disciplinary action and to go through with their plan to not only deal with this incident, but to take measures to prevent it from happening again. We encourage the IFC to work with the university, authorities, the student body, and affected communities to address the multitude of issues within Greek life and to go past written apologies and words. Apologies meant to put a patch over a problem will not fix it. Only taking the initiative to go after the root cause can do so."
Yeah.
And I really think that their message had a lot more, like, it was way more profound than IFC's.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion. And one thing, too, that they bring up is, like, as part of a hazing ritual, which I can't confirm that I don't know if that was confirmed, but that does kind of lead into another topic of, like, hazing. Because I remember, this was a few months ago, there was a boy at another university who was severely, like, injured, like, for life. I'll try to pull it up, from hazing.
Yeah, and there's just been so many stories that have circulated for decades, even, just about hazing in general, at both fraternities and sororities, but I think we can kind of come to the general consensus that it has been worse at fraternities. I can't exactly speak, obviously I'm not in Greek life, and I'm sure I would be sworn to secrecy if I was, to not say anything about this, but like you said, we can't confirm that this was an act of hazing. That's what Pride seems to think it was, and honestly kind of, it would make sense in my mind that might have been what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in Greek life, but my experience, I never was subjected to hazing. There was no hazing in my sorority, like, literally ever. There was not even talk of that. But obviously, I do think that fraternities are much different.
Yeah.
I can't speak from experience as I've never been in one, but I will say that I feel like there are more like discussions about fraternity hazing more so than sorority hazing. And so the what I was talking about a little bit earlier was actually there was a student from University of Missouri, so that's Mizzou, who nearly died. He was found in cardiac arrest with alcohol poisoning, and this was last year, so it was last October, and he was in Phi Gamma Delta at Mizzou.
Yeah, and there's just another, like, all you have to do is search up fraternity hazing on Google, and you just get so many results. So that kind of indicates that it is, you know, a problem.
Yeah.
Like here, 8 hours ago, West Virginia University fraternity cleared of hazing, but then right next to it, hazing victim family receives nearly $1 million in a settlement from a Virginia school. I'm going to pull that one up just to make sure it's not talking about the same West Virginia one.
Yeah, this one is from Mizzou, and there's a quote. So it says, his mother said doctors told him he'll need care for life. And then the quote is, this is from his mother, he's still not talking or walking, he's in a wheelchair, he lost his vision, but he hears us and he knows we're there. And just for context, this is from Good Morning America.
Yeah, so the one I just talked about where somebody died from after attending a fraternity party, they were from Virginia Commonwealth University.
Okay.
So these are, again, 3 separate incidents, all of when it happens when you just Google hazing at fraternities.
And, like, in this article from Mizzou, it says, the University of Missouri has since revoked the fraternity's charter and proposed sanctions against 13 of its members. And prosecutors have charged one fraternity member with 2 misdemeanors for supplying alcohol to a minor. In my opinion, in this situation, like, I don't think that it's just one fraternity member that he got 2 misdemeanors. Like, this kid nearly died.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this kid can never walk again. He can't see. Like, that's, like, giving them sanctions and misdemeanors, like, I just don't think that that's enough.
Yeah, and, like, just in general with, like, the toxic behaviors that we see with fraternities, it's just, I understand that there is a legacy aspect to it, and it can really genuinely be something that people enjoy. Like yourself, you've had a good experience with Greek life.
Right.
And I know so many other people on campus who have also had a good experience with Greek life. But when it comes to this kind of behavior, we obviously are seeing a pattern. And so, you know, suspending the universities, or suspending the fraternity for, like, a year, or, like, you know, just, like, defunding them for, like, a year or 2, you know? Like, that's obviously not going to do anything.
No, yeah.
Like, it's just a temporary, it's like in what Pride said it during their statement, it puts Band-Aid on, like, a gunshot, you know? Like, it's gonna temporarily help things, but never, like, officially long-term solutions.
Right, like, they said something in their statement about, like, the root cause, and, like, that's, like, I think the main issue. But honestly, like, I do think that, like, there is, like, you have to take into account, like, the individuals.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, if you're in a frat or something and, like, someone tells you to do something, it's kind of like that saying, like, if your friend jumps off a bridge, like, are you just gonna follow them? And I think that's a lot, like, a big issue, too, is, like, people will partake in things just because they think it'll make them cool, or, like, because their friends are doing it. Which, like, you shouldn't join an organization, like, be it Greek Life or an RSO, that makes you do things that go against what you believe in.
It's just, like you said, it's a lot to do with education, but a part of that education should be recognizing red flags in people, and recognizing red flag behavior in general. It's like you said, if somebody's telling you to do something stupid or to do something that you're not uncomfortable with in any way, shape, or form, like, that should be a red flag that you don't want to be a part of this, even if you do think it makes you look cool. Like, comfort should always come first for yourself and for those around you.
Yeah.
It's just... Oh, yeah. So, just kind of in general, I think it's also important to make sure that, like we have some extreme cases that we're talking about. Somebody was paralyzed, somebody lost their eyesight, somebody died. Those are all very extreme cases, and those we do hear about in the news because of the extremeness of their cases and stuff like that. But not to say that spray painting homophobic slurs on the side of a building isn't serious. It is. It's very serious, and it affects a lot of people in more ways than people you can physically tell from their reactions, Yeah. It's very much more of a mental effect. Like if somebody were to experience racism on campus, they're not like, I hope, not physically in pain or anything like that. Like you can't outwardly tell how they're affected by it.
Right.
It's more of a mental thing. So, like we do think of like those extreme cases first and foremost when we think about hazing, but that doesn't mean that we should look past like using slurs or like just like more so bullying tactics by fraternities or just Greek life in general. It's definitely not inexcusable behavior, or it's not excusable behavior, and like it obviously needs to be prevented and take those steps that Pride was mentioning about educating people about why it's bad and why it's harmful. And if you can't keep those opinions or negative thoughts and hurtful words to yourself, then you should not be a part of this fraternity, and the fraternity should not be supporting you as a person.
Right.
It's just like, it's all about image, I feel like, in a lot of this part is like, like we said, the fraternity will be suspended for a year, and so that people will forget about what happened, so then they can reopen themselves back up and recruit more people again, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, everything will be fine for 2 years until something new happens.
Exactly. Like, we can cut this part out if I forget that this is wrong, but wasn't Fiji suspended on campus? Are they still suspended?
I believe that they I believe that like this semester, I believe they are not suspended anymore, but I do know that another fraternity has their house that they originally had. I don't know totally for sure, but I know that they were suspended. I don't really know why, but I don't think that it was anything like this.
Yeah. Like, whenever somebody gets suspended, it's always just like, oh, they got suspended, it's a slap on the wrist, There's, like, again, there's never any permanent fix. That, again, recognizing red flag behavior. And this doesn't just go for, the already included fraternity members pressuring you to do something that you're not comfortable doing. It's when fraternities recruit people, they can also recognize red flag behavior of people who are trying to use fraternity resources for ill intentions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because, I think that a lot of it has to do with, individual people and, also, kind of the bystander effect, if you are in a frat or a sorority and, you see your friend doing something that they shouldn't be doing, you need to speak up.
Yeah, I just, that's just generally the mindset that everybody should have on campus, but especially fraternities and sororities, because they are such, a social group, and someone who gets a lot of that spotlight attention. Obviously, fraternities have parties, and they recruit girls to come to their parties, or sororities throw events, and they want people to attend their events to fundraise, or to come out for a good cause, stuff like that. It's just, again, recognizing red flag behavior, and then, also making sure that, what you're doing, for whatever purpose it is, that it has, it's inclusive, and it doesn't make anyone feel uncomfortable. If, I don't know, this is not a specific example that I'm referring to, but, say somebody was throwing a party, and it was, themed something that was culturally insensitive, that's obviously something that's not inclusive.
Right. And
so people should be taking the steps to work against that. So, in my mind, from obviously what we've been hearing this in general, not just fraternities at ISU, but just fraternity life in general, Greek life in general, tends to have the ability to enable toxic behaviors. As we've seen, it's sad that for me to think that, hearing about a date rape that happened at a fraternity party, or homophobic slurs that were painted because of fraternity pledges or whatever. Like, as terrible as those events were, they're unfortunately not very uncommon.
Yeah, that's like the big thing. Like, they just aren't common anymore. I mean, they are common. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like we hear about them so often that we're desensitized to it.
You're literally reading my mind.
And then, like we said, the fraternity doesn't get a sufficient punishment. Like, you know that phrase, boys will be boys?
Yeah.
I feel like that's how school administrations tend to feel about fraternities.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Because it's not even just ISU, because, like, I can't really recall, like, something like this happening, like, recently. But, like, I feel like this happens with other universities. Like, something big will happen, then it's a big deal for a month or two. And then
exactly.
No one talks about it until the next time it happens.
Like, I'll bring up an example that caught a lot of attention last year. Was a girl was raped at a fraternity at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and that sparked huge social media fire because it blew up on TikTok.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about anything since, you know?
No, yeah.
Obviously, like, it's what happened to that girl is obviously her choice if she wants to press charges or anything with it. But, like, I don't know. The backlash and the media support should be enough to shut down that fraternity, in my opinion. Yeah. Aside from the acts alone that are terrible and despicable, but, like, you know, if you're not gonna, like, shut these things down because of just the acts itself, I feel like, you know, the image, the name should, like, be enough for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the homophobic slurs at ISU had gotten more attention, maybe the punishment against Kappa Sigma. They haven't released, so we'll preface it with that first, is they have not specified exactly what they're doing against Kappa Sigma in response to what happened last Wednesday. I've heard allegations that they've just kicked out the entire pledge class. That could be wrong. That's what I've heard.
I haven't heard anything, like, confirmed. Like, I heard people saying, like, oh, they should just kick the pledges out.
Yeah.
But that was just, like, that's nothing of substance. But
yeah, they're just rumors. But
like, the only thing that IOC has is, like, we will create a comprehensive education program and recommend a formal outline of sanctions.
Yeah, and, like,
that's not very specific.
Yeah, like, I think if they want to do anything of substance, like you're saying, they need to talk to Pride at ISU. They need to talk to Queer Coalition. They need to talk to the student government.
Yeah.
Like, all these bodies to, like, give input on, here's how what you did was harmful.
Yeah.
And here's how you need to go about it moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Because, like, I think, like, hearing that is actually going to make them, like, think about it and think that, like, what you did when you probably thought was going to be, like, what, like, I'm doing this with air quotes, like, funny for you and your friends, like, that hurts people's feelings. And, like, that, like, it doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't.
Like, it just makes you look bad. Like, even if you thought it was, like, cool, it's not.
Yeah, I do think that that is a problem in general with our generation, at least, of, like, simply using swear words and stuff like that in an effort to fit in and look cool.
Yeah.
But, like, swear words, like, just, like, you know, your generic swear words are, like, a different story, but, like, those are, what they spray painted on those buildings were slurs.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it what it is. Those were slurs.
No, they were.
Those were harmful words that they painted on those buildings.
And also, it's, like, the organizations that they spray painted on, like, they didn't do anything.
Yeah, like,
it was, like, so pointless.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right.
But, like, at the same time, like, simply using the word stupid, like, I feel like also, like, diminishes the situation. And I feel like that's also been a lot of the language just at ISU that's been going around about it, and being like, oh, that's fraternities for you, oh, that's boys for you. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah, because, like, that's just not how it should be. Like, I feel like the whole boys will be boys, I feel like in recent years, people have gotten the message that, like, no, like, that's not a justification. So, like...
Yeah, it's like that phrase applies, or should not apply beyond sexual assault, or any other, like, gender-based violence. Like, that phrase is just harmful in and of itself, but it needs to extend to slurs, using bad language like that, and just disruptive behaviors, harmful behaviors that hurt people and make people uncomfortable and feel like they're not welcome on campus.
Yeah.
So yeah, just in general, we hope to see more coming from IFC moving forward. Like I mentioned earlier, I really hope that they will work with Pride and the Queer Coalition at ISU.
I think that's a really good idea. Like, I think that's probably one of the best ideas, like, they could do.
IFC, hit me up, please. I will gladly help you with this, guys. But no, for real, like, I think it needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and I think that, like, the people who were involved in it, just, like, they need to, like, hear it from another perspective that, like, what, like, happened, like, did hurt people. Like, maybe not physically on the outside, but, like, it's just, like, the whole, like, you can't do that.
Yeah. And that's another thing, like, if they have gotten kicked, the people who were responsible for what happened got kicked out already, they need to bring them back for the training and include them with it.
Right, yeah. Like, getting kicked out shouldn't be, like, that shouldn't be, like, the punishment and then it's, like, done.
Yeah, because, like, you know, like, we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but you know a couple of guys from Kappa Sigma, and like you were saying, they would never do something like that.
Yeah,
like,
I have friends from home who, they aren't in it anymore, but they were. And, like, the people that I know that were my friends would have never done that, and I know that, like, they would not have, like, laughed along with that.
Yeah. And so it's just, like, if the people currently in Kappa Sigma, fraternity, are the ones who are not involved with it, and they're getting re-educated, like, it's pointless. Because they already know it was bad. They already know it was wrong. It's the people who did the thing thinking that it would be funny, or thinking that it would be whatever. If they're not the ones who are getting re-educated and learning about why this stuff is impactful and hurtful, then, like, the training's pointless, pretty much. So yeah, just some lovely topics to talk about here at ISU this week. All right, but that's going to conclude today's episode of Tea Time. Once again, I'm one of your hosts, Elizabeth Urban.
And I'm your other host, Erin Gesser.
Thanks for listening.